Good evening, Wiltshire Business Club. This is Steven Healey. I'm a member of Wiltshire Business Club, and so is my guest tonight, Alec Stansfield. Good evening, Alec.
Good evening, Stephen. Great to be with you. Thanks.
Brilliant. Okay, now, tonight we're going to listen to Alec as he tells us about his business, and we've agreed a series of questions beforehand, and I'm going to bring the first of those up now. And the first question is, what does your business In8 actually do?
Should be an easy question to answer, this one, shouldn't it? We work to improve well-being wherever we find the opportunity. We use a fairly novel new approach that helps us be very effective in helping people make changes. But basically, there are about four main strands to our business. We see clients face-to-face, and we also run workshops with groups of people. Then we also sell some online wellbeing resources to a kind of worldwide English-speaking market. And finally, we run some online internet-based training as well. So basically, wherever we get an opportunity to help improve well-being, then we try and make a difference there.
Right. Now, the first question that arises out of that is the story behind your name, In8 or In8.
Yes, I should have had a logo to hold up, because it's an I and then a figure 8. And so we work with those things that are common to all human beings. So, you know, we have the strapline that says using innate skills to enrich life. But we kind of, our approach is informed by stripping things back really to first principles and asking the question, what does it mean to be a human being? What are the things that we all have in common? And you could say, to sort of expand the strapline, that we work with people to help them identify their innate skills, their innate resources, and their innate capabilities. And we help them use those skills, capabilities, resources to get their innate needs met. And that's kind of, you know, we've also got a program where we can do it in 8 sessions as well. So the 8 is kind of like...
Yeah, that brings it all together and focuses it.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah. Now, whilst researching, I went off at a tangent, as you often do when you're on the internet, and yeah. I came across a website which I'm curious, because I like to learn new things, and one of the things that I came across was human givens therapy. Now,
yes,
could you explain to the watching viewers in the Wiltshire Business Club what that is?
Yeah, it's an unusual title, Human Givens. It's actually the form of the school of psychotherapy that I and my partner trained in. So we are, technically speaking, we are human givens practitioners or psychotherapists. But I don't tend to use that phrase, human givens, as much as I did when I first qualified, and I'll tell you why. And it's actually behind the reason why we're called In8. Human givens says, what can we take to be a given? You know, I could suggest to you that it's a given that you need sleep. You know, if you don't sleep, it's kind of obvious you won't thrive. It's a given that you have an imagination. It's a given that you have a rational mind. These things are the givens of human nature, if you like. So when I said that we strip things back to first principles, this is the kind of approach that is behind everything that In8 does, which is the human givens teachings, if you like. But the words tend to confuse people. And it's a mixed blessing. Sometimes it's a good thing because it makes people kind of ask you the question, human givens, what's that? And it obviously gives you an opportunity to get talking about it. But some people, it just turns them off. And we used to be called the Wiltshire Human Givens Centre. I was very proud to be associated with Human Givens because I know it works. And I was kind of waiting for everyone to come knocking on the door saying, oh, wow, you're our local Human Givens therapists. You know, can we use your services? But what I discovered is that some people think it's an American cult. Some people think it's human gibbons when you hear it on the telephone. And basically, no one knows what on earth it means. So we stopped using that, and we thought, let's just use a simpler word, a simpler name, innate. It's the same idea. It's about what humans have in common, but it's much easier to kind of grasp. Does that answer your question?
That has answered my. Well, I couldn't get my head around the givens part of it.
Well, there you go. You're not the first.
I thought, what, you know, I haven't heard of it being used in that context.
No.
And now I understand more fully. It is actually attributes that were given to start with.
Yeah, well, some of them you can say that we're given, as in sort of skills that we come into the world with. So like a baby is born with an ability to connect to its mother or its carer by copying and mimicking. They are born with that. So that's an innate human resource, if you like. But some of the other things are not within us, but are kind of externals. But you could say it's a given that we need to exchange attention with people in order to stay sane. So that's not something within us. It's more of our kind of, it's a given that this is something that human beings need in order to thrive.
Right. Okay. It is becoming clearer now. You do run. But I suppose my next thing is, how did you actually get involved in this line of work?
Okay, so I'll tell you my own personal story. About 20 years ago, I became quite depressed, quite suddenly. A whole number of things had sort of gone wrong in my life, and I found myself unable to work. In fact, I couldn't use my brain at all. I couldn't plan. I couldn't think straight. What was really weird is that I knew that I was in some kind of peculiar way disabled, but it didn't stop me being completely stuck. And I couldn't work anymore, and it was just so shocking. I was really shocked, and I was quite disabled for some months, but luckily I was one of the lucky ones. I came out of it without too much difficulty. I didn't stay stuck for years, which can happen.
Yes.
I had some good friends, and I had a lot of things that did work for me, and I came out of depression quite quickly, but it puzzled me. It really puzzled me because it was so shocking and so surprising and not like anything I'd ever experienced before. So I was I've always been trying to figure out how everything works. But, you know,
right. Okay.
I started life with physics, and I've had a lot of different experiences, but I've always been trying to learn about how does the universe work, and particularly how do people work. So later on, I went to a talk in London, and I saw a man stand on a stage in front of 100 people, and he said, of course, we now understand depression. We understand what causes it. We understand why people get stuck in it. And best of all, we now understand how to help people overcome it. And I was really surprised to hear this, because at that time, well, even still now, it sounds like, can that possibly be true? I mean, is this guy telling me the truth, or is he trying to sell me something? No. My GP still prescribes antidepressants for people. He would never claim, or she would never claim, to understand depression. The mythology around depression is that it's mysterious, it's complicated, it's difficult, it's different for each person, and it's a big mystery. So for someone to stand up and say, we now understand depression, my ears were pricked up straight away, and I kind of thought, right, can I trust this guy? Is he telling the truth? Now, because I'd been there, some of the things that he said resonated with my experience, and I thought, that's interesting. There's some truth in that bit. So I went back a week later, and I heard him speak again on other subjects about human behavior. And gradually, I learned to trust this guy, and I realized that what he was telling me was actually true. And that's an absolute revolution if you think about it, because there are so many people out there struggling with anxiety, depression, with all sorts of mental issues or struggles. Yes. If you actually had a foolproof way to help people overcome depression, you'd never be out of work, would you?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
So at that point in my life, this was about, what, 14 years ago now, 13 years ago, I dropped everything and retrained in this new discipline. I studied the human givens, and I qualified as a therapist, and then I went on and did an advanced diploma. And I'm very proud now to say I'm a fellow of the Human Givens Institute, and so is my wife. We train together and we work together, and together we run this thing called In8. And since that time, I've helped hundreds of people overcome depression because it's now well understood. But the message isn't out there, and that's one of my kind of missions in life, is to sort of let people know that things do change, we do learn, and there are new ways of explaining things that used to be considered very mysterious. So that's how I got into it, really, my own personal experience to begin with.
Because the situation is that we go along and then things happen to us which build stress, and a whole range of maladies can happen just from nowhere, and there doesn't seem to be a way out, does there?
It can certainly feel that way when you're in it. In fact, it does feel that way when you're in it. What's really interesting is that you've actually picked up on one of the kind of key ideas, which is that virtually all forms of mental distress begin with stress. And it might be a sudden event, a one-off, really stressful thing like getting divorced or losing a partner, or losing a job, or becoming homeless, or something that's kind of obviously massively stressful. Or it could be a kind of more of a chronic level of distress over many years, where basically you're just not thriving for a long time. But that level of stress is always a precursor to mental illness. And that's one of the kind of key insights, I think, that makes it easy to work with people.
And that you brought it, well, you then became involved in a new approach to understanding stress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about that. If it's easier to describe this if you consider something simple like a houseplant. So if you have a houseplant and it's stressed, it's usually quite easy to tell because the leaves tend to be yellow and they droop, and it just doesn't look like it's in good condition. And if you want to look after that plant, what would you do?
Well, you would water it. You would put it
make
in
sure it's got water.
Sunlight. You'd make sure it was taken care of.
Yeah, you'd basically give that plant the things that you know it needs. And as long as that plant hadn't been killed by its, maybe it hadn't been watered for a week and it got a bit dry, you would expect that plant to come back to being fully alive and thriving, wouldn't you?
That's what would be your hope, yes.
Yeah. So basically, if you get a plant, or if you help a plant to get the things that it needs, and you said water and light and maybe a big enough pot and the right kind of nutrition, it's in the nature of the plant to thrive. Notice a key thing here is that there's nothing wrong with the plant that's stressed. It's not got an illness necessarily. I mean, it could become ill if it's been stressed for too long. But essentially, there's nothing wrong with the plant. And the last thing you would think of doing is going in with a scalpel and digging up the roots and trying to fix the plant. You wouldn't need to go in there and mend the plant. And although human beings are much more complicated than plants, the same idea is true, because we, like plants, we're living organisms. And any living organism has to get nutrition from its environment. So the idea is that if we get the right kind of nutrition, and as human beings, that's going to be more complex than the plant stuff. So we need things like community, we need attention, we also need privacy. There are things that we need, but if we get those things met in balance, it's in our nature to thrive. We don't need to go and dig up the roots. We don't need to fix the people. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you, is one way of kind of saying it. Yeah. And our approach is based around this way of looking at stress.
So some of those things, it does. I'm learning as we go along here. Because what you're saying is that some of the things that need to change are internal, but it can be helped by things changing external to you, external things.
Our body has an innate healing mechanism. I mean, I would say that, the answers can always be found by looking within to a certain degree. Our bodies know, if we cut ourselves, if we scratch our skin or cut our skin, our bodies are brilliant at healing themselves. And that's true for all conditions. The only thing that stops us from being able to heal is when we're in an environment that is unhealthy for us. And sometimes we need to change our environment, and sometimes we need to change the way we interact with our environment. But if you sort those things out, all of the other things just melt away.
Okay. Right. Now, the other thing that interests me, and I might well take you up on this, is the Illuminate 22-day challenge. Could you explain what it is?
Yes, I've just finished running one. And that's, you know, I said at the start there were 4 different kind of categories of work that we do. That's one of our online training resources, if you like. So that's something that where we don't meet people face to face, but we do it all from an online perspective. And what it is a 22-day email and video based challenge. If you sign up for it, what you're presented with is, over a period of 3 weeks, 22 days, every morning you receive an email with some brief discussion, a topic to think about, and you receive a video from me of me talking about this topic, inviting you to think about how it relates to your own life, relationships and perceptions and ambitions and everything else. And then if you're happy to be on a Facebook group, and you don't have to be in the Facebook group instantly, right. You can do it privately on your own, but it works best for those people who join the closed private Facebook group, the Illuminate group, and then they share their thoughts each day. My microphone just fell off its stand, so I hope you can still hear.
No problems, no problems.
It's a bit Heath Robinson here.
Right, you're okay.
So if they take part in the Facebook group, then you can share your experiences and get insights from other people who are doing the challenge as well. And each day we have a different topic. And people have found it really insightful. So when we first did this, we did it in the form of an evening class. This was quite a few years ago. But we basically covered the same topics. And at the end of the 6 weeks of the evening class, we had people saying, do you know what? That was better or more useful to me than 2 years of psychotherapy.
Yes.
And we thought, yeah, that's right. Really worth knowing, and it's worth repeating. So basically, the Illuminate Challenge is a 22-day challenge where we present these ideas over a period of 3 weeks and get you to share your thoughts about it. And that's it, really. And people have said it's kind of life-changing stuff, which really excites me. You know, that's why we do this.
Well, as I say, I may well join your next course. When is your next course taking place? Have you planned it yet?
We haven't set a date yet, actually. No, right. I just finished running the one in February, and it's kind of like stand back, have a look at the feedback, have a look at anything that we might need to tweak. And I haven't set a date for doing it again yet, but it will be happening again. And in fact, if you are interested to find out more, then I hope we'll be able to put the website address up at the end of this, and you can follow it. And people can register to get updates about when the next challenge is coming. There's a place you can click to actually
a page.
Sign.
Challenge link is there, but we'll also put it in the text after we've finished.
Brilliant. Okay.
The link to the Illuminate 22-day challenge via email. Now, you and I, we've actually, I mean, normally this doesn't happen on the broadcast. I know Dan, but this is the first time I've spoken to somebody I've met, because we meet every month, most months, at the Wiltshire Business Club meetings.
We do.
And it is, I mean, it's open to everybody, isn't it? Anybody who lives in Wiltshire or Somerset or all around can actually come and join in.
Absolutely, yes.
Over a decent, well, the food's good these days, isn't it?
Oh, it's great, yeah.
And the ale's not bad.
Well, the ale used to be, well, but the ale is wonderful, but I'm driving, so that has to be moderated.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm walking. I actually live about a mile from the place that we meet, and so we walk there and back, which is good exercise.
No, it's a great opportunity to meet people and to swap ideas. And obviously, you know, I'm learning about live video through meeting you and doing this. And it's just a really nice way for people to share ideas. And I think you were there when I did my little talk a month or two ago, where I took my guitar. I'm a keen guitar player as well. Right. And I sometimes present these ideas in a format that involves me demonstrating how I use all of my different innate skills, you know, my imagination, my, well, I won't go through them all, but in order to take on the task of learning a difficult guitar piece, and then I try and play it at the end without too many errors. So,
well, that's another thing about, we talked earlier about live broadcasting, is that we are live now, and if we have a blooper, it's going to stay in there until afterwards, and it's live. I mean, things are going to happen, but so far it's gone swimmingly, and which is brilliant. So I just want to, in closing this particular section, is give a shout out to Roland Millward and Phil Hendy, who actually run the Wiltshire Business Club, and they have monthly meetings. There's a Facebook group, and if you're watching this video, then please follow the link which will be up above, and you're more than welcome to join the group, which now has nearly 800 members scattered throughout Wiltshire. And as Alec has just been saying, we get together and we're able to talk in the real world as well as live on video. Right, now, we've no questions coming in at the moment, so that being the case, would you like to give a close and promote In8, and we'll take it from there?
Sure. Where do I start? We specialize in, well, let me give you another fairly short story.
Surely, yep, it's yours. Yep.
If you think back to the time that you were most productive in your life, whatever that means to you.
Okay.
It's clear that for most people, that time, you might have been under some pressure, but essentially you were in a happy place.
A good place, yeah.
Working if you're working creatively and you're being productive, then you're kind of thriving. And the way of describing what we do is we can help you work out how to create an environment in which you're most productive. Now that's true of organizations. So for instance, there's an organization in Ireland who I think had a turnover about 80 million euros, so quite a big company. And they took these ideas, the human givens approach to well-being, and they applied it to their senior staff to begin with. And it worked so well that they rolled it down to their middle managers and then eventually to every employee in the company. And the chairman of that company, a man called Pat Gilroy, stood on the stage at the last no, it wasn't the last one, it was the one before, last Human Givens conference, which happens every 2 years. And he stood up in front of all of the delegates and he said that by taking these ideas and applying them to his workforce, they achieved a doubling of return on turnover, which is quite an astonishing thing to claim in the middle of a recession as well.
Oh yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is that these ideas really work, and they are really good at helping you figure out how to provide an environment. If you're a company owner who employs people, you need to know this stuff because it's what helps people to thrive. It's also relevant in partnerships. So, you know, we do quite a lot of couples work. We see couples who are maybe, you know, communication's broken down a little bit and they're not sure whether they want to stay together or separate, and we help them through that process. We help people who are stuck for any reason. So if anyone feels stuck, and it doesn't matter why, because we're not big into diagnostic labels, we actually work with the givens of human nature. So if somebody's stuck because they're getting anxious, or they're stuck because they're depressed, or they're stuck because they've got some kind of phobia that stops them from flying or going in lifts, or I've done loads and loads of spider phobias in my time. Or if they're stuck because they've got serious mental health condition, like I've worked with soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who've got military post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, that's a serious condition. But we now know how trauma works. We understand what what it is, and we've got the tools to resolve it. So normally I can help somebody overcome the effects of quite serious trauma in typically 6 sessions. And in fact, I get quite a lot of work from a charity who fund trauma work for ex-military people, and they get their service for free as a result of the charity. I get paid by the charity. Unfortunately, I can't afford to do the work charitably at the moment. But so anything that allows a human being to feel stuck, we've got the answers. And the funny thing about the way that we work is that I never know quite what to call it. I almost shy away from using the term psychotherapy. And the reason I shy away from that is because most people have an idea of what they think psychotherapy means. And usually it doesn't have much in common with the way I work. So for instance, I think it's going to be emotional. Go on, sorry.
It doesn't have positive connotations, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's going to be painful. It's going to involve tears. You know, it's going to involve tissues. It's probably not going to work, and it's going to take a couple of years. And in fact, that's so far from the way that we work that I almost don't like to use the word. Basically, we can help you if you're stuck for any reason. And that's quite an incredible claim, and it's something I'm proud to be able to say. So, yeah, if you've got issues personally or with relationships or even in a work environment, then contact In8 because we probably can help you. I haven't talked about the cards, but you'll have seen one of the things that we publish online is these well-being sets of cards. And we sell these all over the world, and people use them in classrooms, they use them in mentoring, in coaching, they use them with workshops and groups, they use them one-to-one. There's about as many different ways as you can think to use them as there are human beings on the planet. So we've got quite a lot of tools and resources that we can supply. I think I've said enough.
So, no, how can you ever say enough about your own business and your own enthusiasm and your own passion? No, it's been wonderful to actually talk about In8 and the human given therapy that you and your wife are providing to the people of Wiltshire and through your cards worldwide. And it's been my pleasure to chat tonight.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Stephen. I really appreciate it.
To everybody who's watched tonight, we say thank you and look forward to seeing you at a Wiltshire Business Club meeting in the real world or in the group. But if you need any help, and you can approach Alec directly and progress it from there. So your final words, Alec, and then we'll switch off and relax for a moment.
Thanks very much for this opportunity, Stephen. It's been interesting.
And from Wiltshire Business Club, myself, Steven Healey, and our guest tonight, Alec Stansfield, thank you, and we'll see you again in the next exciting episode next week. But for now, good night. And it's good night from me.
Good night.
Good night.
It's good night for it.
Well, I was hoping. Right, I'm just